Hi everyone, it's Tanya Kraus here and you are joining me for an episode of Let's Talk Horses. These next few episodes I'm going through viewer questions. So the question I've got today is from a lady who has asked me how to assess a horse for riding without using a round pen. So she has been riding for a long time and she was always shown to pop a horse in a round pen for assessment before riding, which I love. I think that's fantastic. Fantastic advice, because what the round pen can do, pardon me, what the round pen can do is it provides you with a space to turn the horse loose. Okay, so you're not interfering with their head, things like that. It allows you to see them walk, trotting and cantering in both directions. And most of the time, like 90% of the time, putting the horse through the, walk, trot and canter at liberty is going to reveal any kind of issues that are there, any red flags that are there. At one of those points, at one of those gates, you're going to either see the horse pop. So they're either going to, have a little bit of a tantrum and maybe kick out or buck or do whatever they were going to do potentially under saddle. Or you're going to be able to see just that, they're not moving forward that well. They're a little bit sticky in the feet. So great advice. But this lady has a horse that when she pops her in the round pen, she doesn't sort of want to go forward. And so this lady doesn't want to chase the horse, which I totally respect and appreciate. She doesn't, the horse is just happy sort of hooked onto her. So she doesn't want to push her away. So the question is, what are some of the things I could do without the round pen to still assess my safety? Now, from what I can remember, the question was followed up by that the horse is fine on trails and things like that. So this lady obviously is actively riding this horse, but she still would like to know what are some of the things that she could do sans round pen. So the first thing I am going to say, and it's not necessarily the case with this horse because as I said, she is already riding the horse and there hasn't been an issue. The horse's reluctant to go forward in the round pen could be a red flag. So when I'm colt starting and when I'm teaching people how to colt start, that would be my number one thing. If you don't get walk, trot and canter both directions in the round pen smoothly, freely, without kicking up, without resistance, without stopping, without resistance and without tantrum stuff, it would be a red flag. We would say, in a colt start, we would say, don't get on that horse because he doesn't want to go forward. So the first thing I'm going to say is that the horse's reluctance to go forward could very well be a bit of a red flag. And I'm working with my little angel at the moment who's not broken in. And so she is reluctant to go forward in the round pen. And I was the same. I don't want to chase her because she is really hooked on. She loves being right there with you, but I know that when I go to break her in, I have to get her to go forward because it's my safety and her safety and well-being that's at stake. So as much as I don't love sending her, I see it as a necessary part of her training, a necessary part of her skills, that she needs to know how to be sent away and go forward. So I am teaching her to do that, but I'm not chasing her to do it, okay? So I am lifting up my energy. I am putting a little bit of rhythm in my body and things like that, but I'm not just fast forwarding to like, righto, whack, I'm gonna chase you to get you to go forward. I have built it slowly and now I do have her, walking, trotting and cantering. We're only just started in the canter around me. And and I can tell you exactly how many sessions it's taken because I've been filming them. So the first group of training was only 11 days long and the main thing I was doing was sort of picking up her feet at liberty, grooming her at liberty. And then when I got to about day 5, I think I started with the liberty in the round pen. It was all in the round pen. There's some motorbikes going past. It was all in the round pen, but it was only on day sort of 4 or 5 that I started to actually ask her to go. And so once I asked her to go, if she took one step away from me or going, that was when I rewarded her. So, you know, session 5 through to 11, so 6 sessions were really slow. They were really glacial. And only by the last session had I started to ask her to build a little bit of a trot, and then I'd call her in. But she was still really sticky. She was still really sort of sucking back, all red flags for under saddle. And this isn't with the saddle on, this is just at Liberty. But she was still really sticky, really reluctant. That was about 3 months ago. And recently I've just started, you know, brought her back in for another group of training sessions. So I've done 3 more Liberty sessions, and she had remembered it really easily, which tells me that the timing of my quitting, even though I wasn't super happy with the quality of the couple of little trot steps, because I was calling her in straight away, I would go, you know, a little bit of energy, whatever. She'd go, oh, I think you want me to trot 1, 2, and I'd go, whoa, good girl. I called her in straight away, 3-month gap. The first day that I sent her at Liberty, which you guys who subscribe to my Patreon will be able to see all of these videos, the first day that I trained her at Liberty, she didn't want to go, but then when I said, no, we're going to go, again, without chasing her, she left at a lope. She was like, yep, okay, I remember. You wanted me to go forward. I remember that forward is the key to stopping. And she really committed to that really well. So I'm going to say, if you've got a round pen, that would be a skill that I want the horse to have, is that walk, trot and canter both directions in the round pen. So even though you feel bad about sort of sending her off, consider it a skill, just like any other skill that you would want to teach your horse. And you definitely can get her to go in the round pen without chasing her. It might feel like, you know, to me, there's a difference. Chasing is chasing, you know, my torso's forward. It's literally that I'm coming for the horse. And energy is just me lifting up my energy, tapping on my leg, maybe using my string in the air, clicking, all that sort of stuff. But I'm just using rhythm. And as soon as the horse thinks about moving away from that rhythm, that's when I quit. So you can build that forward from not chasing. So that's number 1. Number 2, for those of us who are watching this because you don't own a round pen and you don't have a round pen, there's probably 4 things that I would use. And I'm not talking about colt starting. When I'm colt starting a horse, there is probably 50 things that I want my horse to be able to do before I throw a leg, before I get on their back. So I'm not going to go into that here. But if I've got a ridden horse that I think is, you know, pretty right to ride, and I'm just looking for I'm looking for a way to assess whether I'm safe to get on, there's 4 main things that I'm going to look for in my horse each time before I ride them. Number 1 is a willingness to bend, and a willingness to bend through the body. So again, this doesn't mean my ability to pull the head around and have the horse pulled around, okay? There's a big difference between me physically pulling the head around, meaning that there's tension in the lead when my horse turns, and my horse willingly bending to a cue, okay? So willing bend to a cue is number 1. It's got to be on both sides, and it's got to be, you know, 3 or 4 times on each side where my horse is just following a feel. Really important. Bend isn't enough, okay? It's got to be following a feel, willingness to bend, and bend through the entire body. So not just the neck, the horse actually physically moving their ribs and being nice and soft through the body. That's number 1, bend. Number 2 is a flat body line, okay? So when I've got my horse out on the lunge, if their pole is higher than their wither, I could consider that being pre-flight mode. So if my horse is in pre-flight mode or flight mode, I don't want to ride them. I'm not going to ride them at that point. So I want to see that my horse can carry themselves without aids, without me tying their head down or any of those things. I want to see that my horse, if I put them out on the lunge at the walk, the trot and the lope, that they are pretty willing to just naturally stay flat. If they're up, it means that they're sort of looking around, there's tension in there. That's an issue, okay? So flat body line. Their willingness and ability to walk, trot, and canter softly, willingly, and softly, willingly, and with good rhythm, tempo, and forward. Okay, so again, my mentor always used to say, you know, can you see how that horse is sticky? Sometimes a horse can be trotting or even cantering, and the descriptive term we use is it looks like it's walking or cantering through peanut butter, or it looks like it's going through honey or mud. It's just that really, they're doing it, but everything's kind of stuck together and not really flowing. That is potentially your horse. That's a major red flag to me. That's potentially your horse trying to hold himself together and behave. You know, we teach these horses, don't buck, it's naughty, don't rear, it's naughty, don't explode, it's naughty, and then they hold it together, and then we get on, and they can't hold it together anymore because we've layered so much pressure on them, and the final cherry on top was the rider getting on and saying, okay, go, and the horse going, oh, I can't handle this anymore, and then they explode out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. And we find ourselves a problem. So we have to be really careful about teaching horses not to buck, but that's going to be a whole, you know, that'll be a whole nother, article. So I want my horse to softly and willingly be able to walk, trot, and canter around me, flat and smooth, rhythmical through the feet. Basically, when you're on the ground and you're watching the horse go around you, you want to be having that feeling where you're watching it and you're like, oh, I'd like to ride that. That looks enjoyable to ride. If you're watching that horse go around on the lunge and you're like, oh, that doesn't look very nice, I don't like that, then that, you know, trust your instinct. That's your gut feeling telling you something's not right here. You got to trust that. You know, something that we don't spend enough time on is understanding that, that your gut instinct is correct. If you see something, and especially when it's your horse, you know, I can come and watch your horse and say, oh, he looks all right. And you say, oh, no, something's off. Don't let me, because you think that I'm the knowledgeable trainer, don't let me override what your gut is telling you, because you're the one who sees that horse every day. You're the one who watches that horse every day. You're the one who, you know, so if you say to me, oh, he doesn't look right, and I say, oh, he looks okay to me, but I trust you, keep going, do something until he looks right to you, I'm fine with that. I don't have an ego that big that I'm going to say, oh, no, you know, he looks fine to me, because I don't know that. You know, you've got to trust that gut instinct in you that says something's not okay here. I don't think that we're going to be okay. So, and the final thing is your horse's ability to change directions on the lunge. So the changing directions is your horse changing eyes. So sometimes our horse can get really singular about which eye he's comfortable with, but also he can hide things again. And when I say hide things, I don't mean that he's hiding something from you. A horse doesn't want to hide that he doesn't feel good from you. You know, he might be doing it from a behavioral perspective that he's been taught, like, don't do anything naughty, but he also might be trying to, you know, oh, I'm just going to hold it together here. But then when you change the eye, it's that crossover from one eye to the other that can also cause a horse to reach his level of tolerance and go, oh, you know what, I can't handle this anymore. So when we change directions, we don't want to bring our horse all the way back down to a standstill and then change directions and go the other way. I want my horse to be able to change directions at the walk, trot, and canter. You know, cantering's really hard. They're not necessarily going to be able to canter through the middle and do a flying change. But if they're cantering around you and you can sort of call them in, and they might, you know, drop back to a trot as they come past you, and you can send them back the other way and back up into the lope or canter, you know, then that little moment there is your horse's ability to be in that big, bold canter, cantering along, thinking, trotting, change direction. You know, it's that little spot there that where the horse might get a little sticky, or he might what we call pop. You know, when I'm colt starting, I'm always looking for, is this going to make the horse pop? Because I'd rather that they pop on the ground so I can help them be more confident in that situation rather than pop under saddle. Because once you've got the, you know, the rider on top there, quite often the action that you need to take is to shut them down for the safety of the rider. So if a horse pops while you're riding them, often you're going to do a one rein stop or something like that to try and shut that situation down, because it's not necessarily going to be safe for you to ride through a pop, a buck or a rear or, you know, a bronc or a bolt or something like that. So we want to see that pop happen on the ground, so then we can say, oh, okay, you're a little bit, you know, you're a little bit sticky on the change of direction. We want to be able to assess that and deal with it on the ground before we have to deal with it under saddle. So they would be my 4 things that I would want to see on the ground before I would mount. Willing and soft bend at the standstill, you know. So when I say willing, they don't have to stand stock still with their feet glued to the ground. I love a horse that'll stand still but not freeze. You've got to make sure they're not freezing. So as they change from one side in the bend to the other, a little bit of a walk, or a little bit of a rebalancing of the feet. But if they're really like walking backwards when you change bend, or they're walking forwards, or they're really sort of not wanting to stand still, red flag. So bend, willing, soft, follow the feel, and through the whole body. A flat outline of the body, walk, trot, lope, stop. A little head up in the transitions or something like that. They might be doing that to physically help their body go through the transitions. But if they're elevated, eyes staring, ears sort of pricked, that would tell me that they're sort of in pre-flight mode. So I want the horse engaged with his environment, nice and flat, comfortable, willing to go around me. Walk, trot and canter both directions. Smooth, willing, rhythmical, something that looks like you want to ride it. And a change of directions, multiple changes of directions, not just one. You want to go from left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left, not necessarily one after the other, but just as part of that, moving your feet workout. I want to see that, again, my horse maintains that lovely, flat, confident, free, willing feet, before I hop on him. So to me, it's just about trusting your instincts. If you see something that you wouldn't want to ride on the ground, then deal with it on the ground so you don't have to ride it. Thanks so much for watching.